Welcome to Fun in Key West, where every day feels like a mini fest. Grab a drink, take it slow. We'll show you where the locals go. Food, fun, and stories to tell. Hidden gems you know so well. Your Key West experts here to say it's fun in Key West every day.
Welcome to another episode of Historic Marker Monday. I am so glad that you are here. Today, we are exploring yet another one of those historic markers that you see around Key West. The fun thing about this one, though, is it's not necessarily in Old Town. So imagine this. You are exploring Higgs Beach, and all of a sudden, you come across this giant brick structure that's got vines wrapping around all of it, and it looks like Mother Nature has just adopted a Civil War fort. Well, you have stumbled upon the West Martello, and this is where cannons were planned, but actually orchids took over. What's interesting about this location is it is a Civil War fort, but it has never fired a cannon. It has that indestructible design of all of those martellos that you see around. But today, it is home to weddings and butterflies and orchids and sea views. So let's dive in. And this is what we do every Monday as we explore these historic markers. If you're here watching me live, thank you so much. Let me know you're here so I can do a shout out. So, the West Martello was a Civil War fort that was built for war. But here's the interesting thing. It's one of three forts that you're going to find around Key West. And it was built with this indestructible design. It created a defensive chain all the way around the island. These martellos were used to support Fort Jefferson out in the Dry Tortugas. So if you think about where the Martellos are located and Key West is located and Fort Jefferson's located, you can see strategically that these were set up so that they provided protection for the maritime, lanes as the ships came in, and protected Key West and all of the Gulf and all of that. And these martellos were absolutely military marvels. They have round towers. They have cannons that were to be situated on top that could swivel 180 degrees. When I say indestructible, think about this. The walls are 8 feet thick. So that, cannons, it would take a lot of force to come through an 8-foot thick wall. And so they were designed to survive insane bombardments. The construction on the West Martello started in 1862. It was never fully finished. So this wasn't officially used during the Civil War. There was never any battle deaths there. No cannons were ever fired. And basically, it was semi-built for a fight that never came. So if you think about when this was built back in the 1800s, most of Key West life was near the harbor or today's historic district. The West Martello, where it sits today, was considered out in the country. It was not near town. So it's proved to be a really good location to build it. It was near a salt pond, and so it was away from the main historic, the main town of Key West. And when you go through the West Martello, you're going to see, it's probably a little hard to see right now, but you can imagine that there was some extra protection built into the way this was built. There's an inner courtyard, there's casement walls that were designed, and so if under attack, the soldiers could retreat back into the central citadel if the Martello was actually invaded. But then, during the 1890s, the West Martello was starting to be dismantled, and a lot of the fill and the pieces were then put over into Fort Taylor. And after about 1866, it was mostly fully abandoned. And this is where it sort of feels like a movie montage. So even though it really wasn't used, there it did play roles in several of the incidences and wars that had happened around Key West. So during the Spanish American War, two guns were installed to modernize the defense of that side of the island. During World War II, anti aircraft battery was put inside the fort walls. And in 1962, for just, there was 11 or, during that period of time during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the beaches in front of the Martello, they were lined with barbed wire and missile launchers and searchlights and all of that. And so you went from missiles on the beach to orchids and weddings, only in Key West, right? This is where today I think is the emotional heart of the West Martello. Um, in the 1950s, city workers began tearing it down. It was an eyesore. It hadn't been taken care of. There hadn't been a whole lot of love given to the structure. And Representative Joe Allen steps in and he says, "This is history. We have to save it." And so they proceeded to move forward and they leased the structure to the Historical Society and then to the Key West Garden Club. And Christopher is saying, here, let me just add it here so you all can see this. My mom and my grandma and I went to Key West something like 20 years ago, and we loved it. Unfortunately, and I'm so sorry that your mom and your grandma are now gone, but it was an awesome memory to keep in your head. I agree. That's a great memory, and I think that is what Key West offers. And a lot of you say this is you are able to go with family members, and as you go back, you get to sort of revisit those family members. Christopher, thanks for sharing. So, like I said, the West Martello, it was leased to the Key West Historical Society and then to the Key West Garden Club. In the 1950s, the Garden Club officially takes over, and they literally made soil for their plants out of seaweed and street sweepings, and a lot of their members donated plants, and everyone adopted a section of the garden and they took it over and took ownership of it. And that's what you see today. So, this is preservation plus community at its best, right? So, shift today. You're wandering Higgs Beach and you stumble upon the West Martello. It's open 9 to 5, 5:30, I think. Admission is free. I highly encourage that you give a donation just to support the garden club. But right now, you can wander through some of these lush subtropical gardens that the garden club takes care of. People have adopted sections. They have all of these wonderful plants in there. You have a lot of vines and fig roots that are wrapping around the brick walls. You're going to see some rare plants. So if you are into plants, some rare plants you're going to be able to find there. You go check those out. They're also it's also a certified butterfly habitat and a certified wildlife habitat, and you get views of the Atlantic. But what's so cool is there's weddings held there. So if you are looking to come to Key West and are looking for a fabulous place to hold your wedding, check out the West Martello. You have a perfume garden, you have Cuban palms, you have orchid arbors, you have a dinosaur garden. So if you're traveling with young people, this is a great place to head over and just spend some time. You have some beautiful gazebos and arches. And every year, the garden club works to add something, modernize it, do all of that. So now you're walking through tunnels and in areas that originally were designed for soldiers, but now orchids and beautiful flowers get to live there. And like I said, the preservation of the Martello continues to be active because of the Key West Garden Club. The Martello has survived Hurricane Georges, Wilma, Irma. They have replanted, they've redesigned, they've rebuilt. What's really interesting is because of the work that the Garden Club does, books have been published about native trees and plants that come out of there. They offer educational programs, and they do all kinds of things. So this isn't a frozen in time museum or a garden. This is an active garden, an active space, and they're taking care of history in real time. So at 1100 Atlantic Boulevard, right next to Higgs Beach, you're going to find the West Martello. Head over there, like I said. Admission is free. I always encourage, though, a donation. Go for a stroll over there in the morning, wander through, take a look. If you are into photography, especially plants, this is your place. If you're looking for a quiet break from Duval, you're going to find it there. And if you're a huge history fan, you're just going to love walking through and looking at how the Martello was put together. Pair it with time at Higgs Beach or over, at catching lunch nearby, maybe salute on the beach, or maybe you're going to head over to White Street Pier. So, as I always say, these historic markers not only mark a building like this one does, which is the West Martello, but they also mark places and experiences and people. And as you can see with this location, that people have continued to update it, modernize it, and still pay homage to its historical roots. It was a military fort, but now it's a garden, it's a wildlife habitat, it's a community space. It's something that is being kept up to date and absolutely beautiful. So the West Martello proves something very Key West, right? Sometimes the strongest defenses aren't cannons. They're orchids and volunteers and people who refuse to let history crumble, right? I think that's what we all love about Key West. Thank you so much for stopping in as we explored another one of those historic markers that we do every Monday. If you want more information about this or other historic markers, head over to FunInKeyWest.com. Over there, you're going to see under What to Do, the historic self-guided walking tour, and there's a lot of those historic markers. As a matter of fact, there's almost 123, over 120 that are scattered throughout the island. So be sure to stop and read those anytime you see one, stop and pause and take a look at those. If you're over exploring our site, thank you so much. Be sure to sign up for our happy hour list that gets you on our newsletter, as well as check out our book club. We are at the end of January 26th. So the February 26th book will be announced very soon. As a matter of fact, it's probably later today. You guys have a wonderful time. And Christopher says now he just remembered that they stayed at the Santa Maria. So we love it when you guys pop in and when you say hi so that I can do a shout out. You guys stay warm. There's a lot of you that are still under a lot of cold temperatures, but I hope you all stay warm. Thank you for tuning in. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.